So I'm the garbage pail side, and he's the sports side.
The house divided, I see.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not sports, and he's sports.
All right. You guys get into it around the same time? Did one of you get into the other person into it?
Well, when I got back into collecting, then she noticed I was doing it, and she started looking up her garbage pail, and she started.
Right. I had the mindset of anything you can do, I can do better.
Okay. So you're like, that's cute with the sports and
Yeah,
all,
that's cute,
but
but
I'm gonna like elevate it.
Right, yeah.
Garbage pail kids. Is there any sport in particular that got you into collecting, or anything that
Well, when I
you
was a
connect
kid, I
with?
used to do baseball. And
Baseball.
then my little brother started taking my cards, so I had to lock my bedroom so he wouldn't take my cards. So I kind of fell out of the hobby for a little while. Then I got back into it, and she kind of, like she said, she started doing anything I could do better, and that's how I got back into it again. So
He introduced me to Whatnot. That was a big problem.
Yeah.
He introduced me to Whatnot, and once I discovered Whatnot and I was watching it, I was like, oh, bye. And then I started getting, I was like, oh, this is fun.
It can be quite addictive doing it now with all the apps that are out there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
And is there any like holy grail or like great white whale that you've been chasing when it comes to the cards, or?
It's tough to say. I just know I'm a big fan. I PC a lot of Tom Brady and Justin Jefferson cards.
Okay.
But I don't think I have one particular holy grail card I can think of. It's just I enjoy the hobby and collecting. I reinvest what I sell back into the hobby.
Yeah. And you're coming to the trade shows, obviously. What is some, is it about the people that you meet here too? You like coming in person versus selling online?
You make new friends. You have people you can keep in contact with online. And, I actually ran into a friend that I hadn't seen since middle school at the show they have in Wilmington. They come around like twice a year, the Greater Boston show. And I hadn't seen him since middle school. And now we came back in touch. I went to a trade show a couple of months back, and I just caught up with him, which was kind of neat.
That's great. And what are some people you met along the way for your garbage pail kids?
Oh, most of it's online community.
Yeah?
I mean, it's such a tight-knit community on Facebook. We have a whole Facebook group, and everybody pretty much knows each other by now, especially all the sellers who are already out there. So, I actually, locally, I haven't met any from these car shows, GPK, but I mean, we've been just doing Salem, but we definitely have a tight-knit community online on Facebook.
And I'm not familiar with Garbage Pail Kids cards in general, and sports cards either, but for Garbage Pail Kids, we're still coming out with new ones?
Yes.
Okay.
So they just, they're doing MLB series now,
Okay.
which is kind of
The
cool.
worlds collide. You guys
Yes,
are finally...
the worlds have collided, and
Yep,
that's kind of neat. They do new chromes, new sapphires, so they're kind of piggybacking off of the sports world and saying, oh, they're having diamond cards. We're going to create GPK, sparkly, sapphire ones. So yes, they're playing off of the sports, on tops. Yeah.
So one day, are we going to see like a joining of this two sides of the table? We're going to have some
If they do ever do football, which will be awesome. If GPK does football, I bet you he would definitely be.
I think they will be doing that, seeing the new acquisition that Fanatics made of the NFL PA, and so I think we will be.
That would be cool if they did
that.
Do you guys have any? Jason was explaining to me about the Fanatics acquisition of, I think it was for what we were talking about for Topps. Have you noticed anything? First of all, how long have you guys been collecting? You said since you were a kid, but you got back into it.
A few years back.
Yeah. So have you noticed anything, any change in the community, in the shows, in online trading with any of these higher up acquisitions, things that are merging over there? Does it change the game at all for you guys?
I haven't seen anything crazy yet. I'm just hoping that they don't increase the prices. That it doesn't become too big. And they can keep it on a level where it's good for the consumer, the small guy. It doesn't become too overpriced and stuff like that. And they can think about little guys like us that enjoy that hobby still.
Okay. And any advice for people trying to get into it? Be sitting behind the table like you, fetching their cards.
I do your homework first. I think when I first started, I was like, give me everything. I just want the whole collection. And then you realize there's Chrome, there's Sapphire, there's OS 1 to 15. There's like all these, and you're like, okay, maybe I went in too hard at first. Like, maybe start with like one series. Like, start with like, and if you want to start cheap, start with the Chrome. Like the newer series are a little bit more affordable than the OS ones. And then build from there. Versus just trying to get everything because you can't get everything.
Yeah. Ball there we go. All right. What got you guys into collecting?
Money.
Great answer.
Just something I started doing when I was younger. I love sports, so I just was like, oh my God, might as well learn. That's now how I do fantasy.
And was there any sport in particular you gravitated to when you were younger? Baseball. Gotcha. Was there like a card that got you hooked when you were a kid? Something that really sparked that excitement for you?
I don't know if I ever had a card. It's just, I always, coming from Boston and never, how we never won a world champion. It was just always the buzz. Everyone in the family was always so diehard, but they would just yell at you and, say they suck, but we love them anyways.
Has it gotten too easy now to love them? Now they're just such good champs.
No, actually, that makes you hate them more because they don't spend the money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so no. When you're used to being a good team and they don't try anymore, it makes it hard.
Yeah. You got a little lazy with it. They're just getting too used to winning. So you started off with baseball. I see you branched out. Was there anything else that made you branch out into other sports? Was it just sticking with the teams?
When I got older and I started going to football games and stuff, and actually going to the games and stuff, I fell more in love with football than baseball.
Okay.
Let's be honest, most people that go to a baseball game, you're spending all this money for a 2-hour thing, and I'm not saying it's not fun. You spend so much money. At least with tailgate and going to a football game, you're there. It's a whole day's thing. It's worth, and it's worth the time.
It's an experience.
It's more of an experience. So, like, when I did that, I got hooked more on football.
Gotcha.
So I expanded.
So you were definitely in it. It was your passion that got you into it. Do you think that, like, when it comes to different experiences for different sports, that changes the way that people interact with cards, collecting, things like that?
I do. Just like, for example, someone like me, I'm not a hockey guy. I don't like it. But I'll tell you this: you ever gone to a hockey game?
Oh yeah.
It's unbelievable. It is bar none. But like before that, wanted nothing to do with hockey. I wouldn't watch a hockey game for life. But now that I went to a game, I'm like, wow, what a difference.
Yeah, it's fun.
So like, I always say that go to a game and can really, show something that you're not, that you've never seen.
Boston's more of an experience than any other place too, as far as sports goes. Like the Red Sox and the Bruins, you won't get that experience if you go to other cities. Like, I mean, maybe if you go to New York and see the Yankees, but Boston has the best fans as far as getting you into the game.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I was living in Boston for like 5 years, and I always found it awesome that the Fenway Park's right there in the middle. It's accessible to everybody. You got everyone pouring in off the commuter rail. You know what I mean? Some of these places you got to go so far out on the other side of the highway, whatever. But boom, it's just like smack right there.
No,
Lansdowne's the best.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. I mean, at a certain hour, then it gets a little it gets a little dicey sometimes.
Before Axis opens.
Yeah. So you've been collecting since you were a kid. Did it come in and out, or?
Yes, I actually stopped. I actually stopped for quite a while. I lost my first collection.
Yeah, I bought you
I lost my storage unit. I lost my whole first collection.
Wow.
And then when I was, I got back into it, and I was like, in the beginning, it's like everything. It's like you're either all in or you're not, and it's just like
when you pull in and pay.
I buy people's collections. I buy lots, stuff like that. And sometimes it's just it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
I mean, like a lot of people don't understand about card collecting. It sometimes is more of a job than your regular job.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know?
And so when you buy these buy these larger collections, what are you looking for? Is there something that like tips you off, like one card out of the bunch, or are you just getting like a feeling for it? You think the collection's kind of hot?
It varies. There is some times where, like, if I buy it online and I see like 4 or 5 cards that I really want, I'll look at everything and I'll be like, okay, it's worth the whole shot. So I'll do it that way. And then there's some times where, you know, you just look at something and you take one card to catch your eye, or it could just be like, I'm in the mood of a gamble. You know, depends on the price.
And if you saw that collection that you lost, your original collection, how much was that for you?
I definitely spend some money. I'm definitely there's some of them. Like I said, I actually lost 2 in a and the last one I lost in the storage unit. I didn't know I had them in there, and I thought I had them. I had my other collection. I had 2 big boxes just of them, and there were a lot of cards I'm never gonna probably replace. You know,
I got 2 nice Tatums.
Thank you, Craig. So, what got you into collecting, into selling? Which one came first?
I collected when I was a kid. Cards, my neighborhood buddies were into cards. So when I was younger, I was into it. I used to go to shows. And when I got to about high school, I fell out of it a little bit. Pretty much stopped collecting. And, you know, life went on. I had substance abuse issues for a long time. So I battled that for years. And when I came out of it, I ended up going to a sober home and a halfway house, living with my friends, getting my life back together. And as I got my life back together, I needed to fill, you know, a void that I had for so many years. And I got back into collecting. And since then, I've been collecting cards. I kind of use it as a hobby to keep me, you know, it's almost like an adrenaline rush a little bit, or just keep my mind occupied, because there were so many years with so much time where I was just spent it on substances, spent it on drugs, and this is kind of an outlet for me now to, you know, within my sobriety, I keep it something that really helps me just overall for my mental health. I enjoy it, and it just kind of snowballed. Just started off buying a pack, because the hobby, in my opinion, really started to come back when Zion Williamson entered the draft. He was a huge high school prospect. He had a ton of people following him. And I want to say he had the most hype for a basketball player since probably LeBron James. And there was a lot of social media, YouTube videos, attention on him, people trying to open packs up, get Zion Williamson. Everybody was chasing Zion. And Luka Doncic started to play really well. So then people were trying to, you know, that was the previous draft class. So people were opening up stuff to get Luka. And through that, you started generating a lot more interest in the hobby. And people remember, like me, a lot of people as kids were into cards, fell out of it when they get into high school, started playing sports, girlfriends, all that, college, and then, you know, like they say, oh, I see a YouTube video, someone going after Zion Williamson. I used to collect cards. Why don't I give it a try? And it just kept going and kept going and kept going, and now it's at where it's at now. So I've been doing this since about 2019.
Okay.
And it's been, like I said, nothing too crazy, but something that I can use as like a positive hobby in my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad this was able to be such a great outlet for you.
Yeah,
Is there
that way.
and so basketball? That's what drew you into cards in general.
Initially basketball, like I said, it was the YouTube videos of people trying to rip and open, you know, the new draft class. And through that, I'm like, you know what? I was at Walmart one day and I saw a box, and I'm like, you know what? I used to buy these when I was younger. I'm like, I'm just gonna go for it. And then I just kind of slowly, you know, opened up the box, started following it a little bit more. And another aspect of it too was I was living with all my buddies for a while. Then I started dating this girl, and I moved in with her, and it was just me and her. So I wasn't living with my buddies anymore. I was so much more alone time with just myself. And I needed to do something. I was bored all the time. So just through kind of, you know, looking for a hobby, kind of brought me back to cards. And then, you know, I started making a little bit of money on it. And once you start to make a little bit of money and it becomes invested financially, and you just kind of want to keep growing it, that's what I've done. Nothing too crazy. You know, I work a lot. I have a 2-year-old now. I have my girlfriend that, you know, that takes a lot of time. So I try to keep up with it as much as I can. Keep it on top of, like, you know, trying to be a little bit more organized, trying to have, you know, my product better present my presentation a little bit better, and that takes a lot of it. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. So I try to keep up with them. It's a work in progress.
And what have you? I mean, 2019 to now, what have you seen that's like the biggest change so far?
So I would say that I compare it to almost like the poker boom, right? So poker boom with Texas Hold'em. Cards boom too. Yeah, it was different. And during the boom, prices were crazy, wax was crazy. Then it came back down to earth a little bit, but it still gained so many collectors. In poker, still from that boom, gained so many players that it's in a much healthier space now than it was, let's say, 2017, 2016, especially basketball cards. For a while there, basketball cards were like, you could barely find wax. There was no nice products. That's why when you look at Paul George autographs, Chris Paul rookie cards, it's not like it is today. So the products have really, really, really gotten better as well. But overall, the hobby's in a much better spot than I think that it was previous to me getting back into it. And I think that's going to stay that way. I think the floor is decently high now because so many people have a lot invested in it, and they love the hobby too. Like, that's another reason that I'll always say it is I love the hobby. I did it as a kid. I'm doing it now. I would never want to give up on it because I want to be a part of the community. I want to be a part of the hobby. I would never want to just if I lose $100 on a bunch of cards, like, it is what it is. I'll win the next one.
And so you saying you win in the next one, so you see it as like kind of a game within itself, trying to hunt it down, make sure you stand on top of your sources.
Yeah, I mean, if to do it right is you got to really pay attention to the box scores, pay attention to where the media is, how what player is. I mean, it's all about being ahead of the curve. So if you see a guy that's starting to play well, or you think he's going to get attention for this reason, or he's projecting in a positive, projecting to go up in value in whatever way that might be. It's about finding that guy before people are looking for him. Because once people are looking for him, you're not going to be able. It's too high at that point. Then you want to sell. So you're pretty.
No. Finish your point.
Yeah, it's just about trying to be ahead of the curve with players.
And so when you're looking at a player, would you weigh the off the court or on the court more?
At first, it was just on the court, but lately there's been so many off the court situations with Wander Franco and John Morant, and you could find Miles Bridges. You can find examples of guys where their value is just gone because of off the court stuff. And I didn't think of that previously to investing in cards, but now it's something I pay more attention to. I would say more currently than anything else, because you do see like a Wander Franco card that was worth $100 2 years ago has no value now. There's hockey players that have had issues as well. I'm not as familiar with the names, but yeah, you do have to kind of pay attention to it. But most of the time, I just look for guys that have potential on the court. I've always liked to try to find younger players to follow and get behind and think that they can progress into a really good player. I mean, that's part of the fun for me is trying to find that next star. It's always about finding that next star.
And do you find that it's affecting you? Like, were you a sports fan before you started collecting?
Yeah, I've always been a huge sports fan my whole life.
And do you think the collecting or selling and trading cards has affected your watching it, your fanship?
I even think that personally for me, I watch sports no matter what, but I think for the MLB, the hobby has really helped them with just overall viewership and participation in the sport, because you do want to watch. If you got you just bought a really expensive Daniel Jones card and he struggles all of last year, you know what I mean, but you want to see him. You want to watch the players that you invest in. You want to see them succeed. So yeah, you do watch the games. You do pay more attention to the box scores. You do pay attention to sports overall more, because it's almost like you're a little bit invested in the sport itself. So it's a good way for people to stay connected in sports to it. You can, you know what I mean. You can you get behind players that you like and you want to see them succeed. So for sure.
Auctioneer.
Okay.
So I get a lot of stuff from auctions and home clean outs, and I buy stuff off my own clients that maybe this didn't sell at auction, so I'll say, hey, what do you want for it? And I'll buy it off here. This is my first time doing a show here.
Okay.
Doing any show, really. My first time, so I figured I'd give it a shot and just get rid of it. I got, 4 times as much more still at home. And it's all got to go. I need more room for the Barbie stuff that's coming.
Barbie stuff.
So it's all got to go, so here I am.
So it was it any particular sport or team that got you into it? Just being around it?
Just being an auctioneer. Just being an auctioneer, it all comes in. I know absolutely nothing about sports. Nothing. Not a sportsman. Yeah, I'm more into the fishing or stuff like that. I enjoyed watching wrestling and stuff. So so here, this is just acquired. If I come across a name that I recognize, I'll call up my buddy and say, hey, look at this. What do you think? Like last night I found a Chuck Connors card, the Rifleman, and it was a reprint, but still I thought it was pretty cool.
Okay.
So I never know what I'm gonna find. I see a Shaq card and I get all excited, but it's not the one. It's never the one. But, so I'm here, trying to get rid of some stuff and make room for the next things.
So the next thing's Barbies?
I got Barbies, I got Godzilla, putting them in the same auction, not the same package, but the same auction, and see what happens, I got a lot of Vampirella stuff. I do a lot of comic books. I have one guy that every time I just feel like I'm low on an auction, I'll call him up, I need comic books, and here he comes. So do a lot of comic books. 7G's auction, Salem, New Hampshire.
7G's auction. And these are live auctions or online?
They're online. Because of COVID, the live auction is kind of going down the road. I'm hoping someday to bring them back, but I have to see where that goes.
So you started off with the live auction?
Yeah, I was doing live auctions. Now it's an online auction, sort of like the eBay type of auction, but it's, it all ends on one day, one time, and it just goes. I try to stay away from, I don't like reserves. If I open this up at $5 and that's the highest it sells at, it goes. I don't mess around, I just go. I ship worldwide. Just not afraid of anything. I did 1,000 X-rated DVDs in one auction. I'm not afraid of anything.
Okay. Any memorable titles? Anything that we would recognize?
There was some John Holmes in there.
Okay.
And I think the Pamela Anderson video was in there too. So.
I'm sure that was the Pam Anderson one. I'm sure that was you're catching a wave on a certain price point there. Was that in the height of it all?
It was mixed in with a few others, and I want to say that one for like $75. We put 25 in a lot, and it was pretty good.
And as an auctioneer, did you get that from a sibling, father, anybody who was into it?
The gentleman passed away, and it was his collection, and he passed away, and I got a call from a client and said, would you do this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I did a few things from Betty Page, and I said I'm not afraid of anything. I've done taxidermy.
Okay.
Which gets a little shady there because you got to be careful what can be sold in New Hampshire and what can be sold in every other state. I have to watch that.
New Hampshire's a little bit more free with what you can't.
For the most part. Like I had a bobcat. Right? I can't sell it in New Hampshire, but I know auctioneers in Maine and Vermont that can. So I'll refer it to them and they take care of it.
And you're actually involved getting stuffing the animals yourself and putting the taxidermy together?
I don't do any of that.
No, but
I get it from the clients.
Gotcha.
Get it from the clients. You got to be careful about what birds and everything. I've got a huge tool auction coming up. Tools of all kinds.
And what's your favorite part of being an auctioneer? What's being at auction? We're talking live.
Probably when you get to find something historical. I had some nails that were made by Paul Bunyan.
Wow.
Not Paul Bunyan, Paul Revere. Paul Revere. I like history. So when I get something like that, that's where I want to go. I have some Civil War anniversary medals, that I thought were really cool. No value, but they were really cool.
Yeah.
So I never know what's coming in. And that's probably the most exciting part, because you don't know.
Yeah.
Going through comic books and you look for that 181 Hulk, because you're not going to find #1 Superman, but the 181 Hulks are still out there, so you look for that, But,
and you mentioned the auctions going offline or online because of COVID, but when you're coming back into the scene, have you noticed any change overall with auctions and people showing up? Are people more excited to get back out there?
I've talked to a few people. They're not ready to sit in a crowd with doing a live auction, but they're happy to buy online. So a lot of my customers that are local. They buy in every auction. They're coming to card shows like this. They're selling at the flea markets. They're selling on eBay. Because they're getting great deals, so they can flip it and make money. Then I have probably 80% of my auctions will be packaged and shipped. They ship all over the United States and Canada.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I get somebody in the UK. But shipping's expensive. So you got to try to do the best you can. You got to say, okay, these books here can ship media mail, but a comic book can't ship media mail. So you got to be real careful what you put there. I've been bagged by the post office twice because I put a comic book in with some other stuff. But got to try to be careful. But for the most part, it's pretty fun. I enjoyed live auctions, but like I said, it's going to take a while for it to come back because people still have that fear of sitting next to somebody else.
Gotcha. But they're not afraid of touching old cards that have passed through so many different hands.
Well, in the beginning, it was all worried about that, but COVID's not passable by. Within a couple hours, it's dead.
And so you said you're not afraid to jump into different. You didn't know anything about sports, but you jumped into sports cards because you had the access, know-how.
It's important to have people. It's very important to have people. Facebook, the groups are amazing. I ask a question and I get 4,000 answers. I get a signature on something, and they'll say, "Yep, that's a good signature." Because most of the time it's somebody got it and there's no certificate. But I get that signature, put it on Facebook, and they tell me it's good, it's bad, it's questionable. I got sports people I call up. I have comic book people I call up. I mean, if I need to get a hold of John, I'll get a hold of John and say, "Hey, John, what do you think?" And it's important to have people that know. You don't have to know it all. I'm dangerous with most of my knowledge, but as long as I know people, I'm good.
And is there anything that you're not afraid to jump into next? I know you talked about Barbie and Godzilla, but is there something that you haven't gotten into yet that you might be interested in?
I'm a big guy. I think most of the stuff's afraid of me, so I'll just go forward. Go forward. The only thing I probably wouldn't get involved with would be, stuff that's illegal. Selling ivory or something like that. But if it's got documentation, I'm fine with it. I love history, so anything historical, I'm all over. I'm all over.
And is there any particular piece of history, or like era or different region from history that you are particularly fascinated with?
I'm a Kennedy fan, John F. Kennedy, not the rest of them, but I'm a big Kennedy fan. So anything I can find with that, I'm going to grab. I'm going to look at. I personally collect Little Rascal R-Gang items. I have a nickname, Spanky. When I was in the bike world and that, riding with the different clubs and that, people called me Spanky, so I collect that stuff. Anything else, no longer. I do love Volkswagen stuff, but I'm not a big collector of it.
Well, if there's anything else you want to mention, any other channel or page or anything like that?
7gsauctions.com. Check it out.
In I think 86, and I had a friend who was into it, and he got me into it. And it was also the time where like comic books was a thing too, coins, all that kind of stuff. So basically my friend and I would trade comic books for sports cards and stuff like that back and forth. And then on holidays, family members would buy me a box of cards. So stuff like that. I really enjoyed it, but then we got into other things and moved on. And then years later, in my 40s, I got newly married and was at a yard sale and saw like actually a shoebox full of cards with a box of upper deck cards, and on top of that was a bunch of Batman, and I was interested in the Batman, but the people were willing to make a deal enough, so I ended up taking the whole thing, and that got me back into cards again. So I would say I'm a collector, buyer, and seller for cards. I know the fancy word nowadays is you hear the term investor. I would say a little bit, but it's an unregulated class, so prices are always kind of going up and down on things. So it's more kind of speculative in a lot of ways, borderline gambling, but it's fun and exciting.
All right. And there was any sport that got you into it in particular?
I would say baseball. Baseball is the dominant in cards, as in it has a longer history than all the other sports do. So it's kind of like when you delve into it, you're not just learning about modern cards, you're learning about the past. So like growing up as a kid, I remember, you hearing about the Mickey Mantle, the Babe Ruth, Honus Wagner, which is something both football and basketball doesn't go that far back. So like for basketball, the big names would be Bill Russell, Dr. J, and then Michael Jordan on up. But over time, I would say football and basketball gained a level and degree of popularity that kind of makes it competitive. Definitely with baseball.
Any advice to a new collector starting out?
I would say take about 50 hours of your time and study the ins and outs of everything before you go full into it. Because it's easy to say buy a bunch of stuff and then realize some of that stuff doesn't have any value. And the thing is, you're managing kind of a collection, and that collection can take up a lot of space, a lot of time, and a lot of energy. And learning how to kind of approach it and come up with kind of a strategy so that you kind of figure out what it is you want out of a collection and why you're doing it. So those are some things.